Hi everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and today I am here for Fairy Stamper with a video making a card. Now I'm going to be doing some watercoloring, some very simple watercoloring, though I'm not even going to use a brush. I am just going to use some Distress Oxides, put them on my mat, kind of smush them on there, and then add water to it, and then just smush the paper on there. And you can come up with some really cool designs, even on a second or third one when you are putting it down. The brown on this kind of got it a little bit mucky, but I still liked it, particularly on the first one, but even on the second one. And for this, I am using abandoned coral, wild honey, and picked raspberry on the top, and I used walnut stain and rustic wilderness on the bottom, just to kind of give it the image of kind of the ground or grass, and then on the top with the brighter colors. And the first one I kind of stuck right in the center there because, again, I wanted to kind of get that top and bottom kind of look to it. And I think that it ended up working out really well. The second one, even though the colors got a little mucky, I still really liked that one, even though I didn't use that one for a card this time. I did, however, keep it so that I can use it later. Now I do take my heat tool and I use it to dry off the cards, both of the cards, even though, like I said, I only ended up using the one. Now, no matter what you do when you're adding water and heat and back and forth with cardstock, it's going to get warped. I think it's just kind of important to try to keep it even, if that makes sense. You know, do the back, do the front. This was popped up, so I used the heat gun until it went down, and then I turned it over just to try to, again, keep it a little straight. And then you can also, after you're done, if you have time, you can always stick it in a book or something heavy on it just to smash it down, and it will flatten out quite well. Now, the stamps I'm using for this are It's Your Birthday, Bonnie, Squirrels, and Fireworks. I was going to, in the beginning, use the fairy branches, but I decided not to. And I am using Fairy Hugs Raven Black pigment ink to stamp these. And I really like this ink. It gives you a really nice, solid, crisp image the first time, because I was a little worried about how it was going to stamp. This is like my first time using the Fairy Hugs, and it's very, very good. Being a pigment ink, it does take a little longer to dry, so you just kind of want to make sure that you don't, you know, put your hands in it too quickly. But I mean, it doesn't take terribly long, but you just do want to give it that extra minute or so. Now, after I made this card, my daughter asked me why I would put this squirrel in there, and that the squirrel just seemed random, but I just loved this squirrel, and I thought he was kind of jumping for joy too, saying it was your birthday, so that's why I put him in here. So in my mind, it was not random, but I thought he was cute because he was happy that it was your birthday as well. Now, the fireworks stamp did come together. All three pieces were together, and I cut them out so that I could have them separate. But the fireworks, I'm going to end up using embossing ink and heat embossing them with some silver embossing powder. The sentiment, though, I do, however, use the pigment ink again as well. And I'm just going to pop that on the side there. I'm sorry if I sound a little nasally or congested. My allergies are terrible right now. And it's really bad because I have a postnasal drip and I'm coughing and everybody is looking at me like I have COVID, and so I can't barely leave my house at this moment until my allergies clear up. But I'm not sick, I'm okay, I just have allergies. I want to get a t-shirt that says that. But anyways, so like I said, I'm going to stamp this with embossing ink. I am going to end up getting my Misti just to put it in there, excuse me, because I wanted to make sure that I stamped it a couple times to really get that embossing ink. And I also do remember to use my embossing tool to put the powder down, or the cornstarch or whatever is in there, so that the embossing powder doesn't stick all over. You can get that with anything you're using, but particularly because I have water on this, I dried it. I have pigment ink that's on there, so I really wanted to make sure that I put it on there so it didn't get all over the card, and it just stayed right on the fireworks. Now I am going to list all of the stamps and the ink with links at the bottom in the description of this video, as well as a list of all of the products that I used to create this card. Again, I don't feel that this is a difficult card, and I love kind of the watercolor effect without actually having to pull out paints and brushes and everything else. Now again, I'm going to use my heat tool, but this time I have left it on, and I turned it on a little bit ago, because you do want to make sure that your heat tool is really hot when you're using embossing powder, so that you don't have to keep the heat on there too long. As I said, particularly using the water and the heat tool and everything, this paper has already gone through a lot, so you really don't want to keep the heat on there too long if you don't have to. So if you make sure that your heat tool is nice and hot, it will be a lot simpler and quicker to melt the embossing powder and make sure that it is on there good. After this, I am just going to wipe it down with a dry towel just to get all of the embossing powder tool off, from all of the chalky stuff. And then I am going to cut this down a little bit. I am using it as an A2 size card, and I am cutting this as a front panel that is 4 inches by 5 1/4, so that when I put it on, there'll be a slight border. I end up using a black card base. I like the contrast that it kind of put on there against the images being stamped in the black and then all of the bright colors. And then finally I'm going to pull out some sequins that I have in my stash that I really like. They are iridescent, kind of, with a silvery tone to it, but they're solid, so they don't have the hole in there like most sequins do. I'm just using my tape gun, and I am putting a lot of tape on here because, being that the paper was pretty warped, I want to make sure that it stays down onto the card base without any issues. And I thought it would be fun to stick these sequins right in the centers of the fireworks, and then just a couple around the bottom. So that is it for me today, and as I finish this card up, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to the Fairy Stamper channel. Check out some more of the awesome videos on here if you have not seen them before, and you can always go to Facebook and find Fairy Stamper Hugs, or you can find us on Instagram. Just search for Fairy Stamper. And with that, I would like to say thanks for joining me. I hope everybody had a wonderful day, and take care.